Today I want to share with you how I hijacked my own brain to feel rich before I actually became rich. And it allowed me to go from broke and in debt to CEO of a multi-million-dollar business in my early 30s. And I did that by understanding and implementing these same 5 secret thoughts that I'm going to share with you in this video, starting with this first one. Number 1, be obsessed with this one question. In fact, every billionaire, every millionaire, they're all obsessed with this one single question. And yet everyone else never even thinks about it. And I'm sure we've all found ourselves thinking, how can I make more money? And in psychology, something called effort justification. Basically, the harder we work for something, the more valuable we think it is, even if it's not. Think about it like this. We all know that one friend who spent the entire day making dinner from scratch for you, and then when you go to eat it, it tastes just okay. But they're talking about it like it's this Michelin star meal because they put in so much work to create the meal. And see, our brains do this thing where we struggle for something, so therefore we automatically assume it must be worth the struggle. It must be worth so much more. It's a psychological trick we play on ourselves to make sense of all the effort we just put in. And it's the same with how we make money. A lot of us believe that working harder or longer hours means earning more, but that's not how the wealth equation actually works. A surgeon, for example, makes more than a construction worker, not because surgery is harder, but because surgery creates more value. Jeff Bezos isn't worth billions because he works a billion times harder than you. He built systems that create value for millions of people simultaneously. And so it's not about the hustle you put in, but the impact that you have and the value that you deliver from that work. And so instead of asking yourself, well, how can I just make more money? You want to be asking, how can I create more value for another human being in the marketplace? And that's the question that every rich person is obsessed with. Because when you shift from trading time for money into creating scalable value, everything changes for you. In fact, I learned this lesson the hard way when I was working over 40 hours a week, barely scraping by. But when I look back on it, it's easy to realize that I was just focused on effort and I wasn't focused on creating an impact from the work. And so the moment that I started asking, what problem can I solve for lots of people all at once, my income multiplied. For example, I worked with a fitness coach who was charging $250 for 1 month of sessions. And her offer sounded kind of like this. Book a 60-minute workout with me and I'll guide you through your form and your technique and I'm gonna give you a really good sweat. But here's the thing, people don't pay thousands of dollars for a workout. They can get that workout for free on YouTube. So what do people actually pay for? People pay for a transformation that changes how they feel, how they show up, and how they see themselves. And so we completely restructured her offer, not around sessions and getting the reps in or figuring out their macros, but around identity shift for her clients, the identity shift they were actually desperate for. So the old offer is for monthly training, getting good on your form, custom exercises, motivation during the session. The new offer, $3,000 for 90-day total transformation, going from feeling tired, uncomfortable in your skin, stuck in a cycle of starting over, to becoming a woman who looks in the mirror and feels proud, powerful, and completely in control of her body and her habits, right? We didn't sell the sessions, we didn't sell time with a trainer. We sold the confidence to wear anything in your closet, the energy to keep up with your kids and your ambition, the feeling of walking into a room with head-turning presence, the pride of finally doing what you said you were going to do and doing it for you. See, this coach is just helping people lose weight. What's she actually doing? Helping them reclaim their power and step into a version of themselves they hadn't even felt in years. So once we positioned her offer around those life-changing outcomes, $3K wasn't expensive. It felt like an answer to a silent prayer because people don't buy workouts. They buy the version of themselves they've been chasing for years, the one who's finally strong, confident, unstoppable. That is the difference between putting in effort to train your clients and putting in the hours and sessions with clients and actually creating long-term impact for people. And so if you're an entrepreneur stuck in the hustle loop, constantly thinking, how can I get more clients? I want you to flip the script. Start asking, How can I create an offer so valuable that people will feel lucky to actually find it? What result can I help someone achieve that they'd be happy to pay for? What solution can I build that is repeatable so I can help more than one person at a time get the exact same result? This is how entrepreneurs shift from surviving off one-off sales to generating consistent, scalable income by solving real problems in a repeatable way. And one of the fastest ways to feel wealthy is to start seeing yourself as someone who creates value in the world. And the more that you focus on serving others, the more money you're actually going to make. And if you want a practical way to embody this every day, I want you to start writing down one problem that you notice affects multiple people, and then brainstorm 3 ways you could actually solve it. Because this is going to start training your brain to think in terms of value creation instead of trading time or effort for dollars. Number 2, what's your enough life? I know people who make over $1 million a year and still feel broke. I also know people who make $60,000 a year and feel rich. So clearly the difference isn't just the number in their bank account, and instead it's their relationship with enough. Let me tell you a story I think about all the time. A wealthy investment banker on holiday in a small coastal village in Mexico when he sees a fisherman pull up with a few beautiful fish. The banker compliments the catch and says, "Wow, how long did it take you to do that?" Not long," the fisherman replies, "just a couple hours." And the banker raises an eyebrow and says, "Well, why didn't you stay out there longer and just catch more?" The fisherman shrugs and says, "I have enough to support my family. I spend the rest of my day playing with my kids, napping, walking into town to drink my wine and play guitar with my friends." Now here's what's interesting about this story. The banker, trying to be helpful, then goes on and suggests you should spend more time fishing. Buy the bigger boat, hire more workers. You could create a whole fleet of boats out there and eventually retire rich and sit on the beach, have all this wealth. And the fisherman just looks at him and smiles and walks off into the distance. And so I love this story because it reveals the true power of knowing your enough life. The fisherman wasn't interested in just continually amassing more because he already had everything that mattered to him. And that's something that we all need to actually define for ourselves. What is your enough number in your bank account? Is it a certain lifestyle? Is it freedom to travel? Is it moving to a new country? Is it spending more time with your family? Because if you don't figure it out now, no amount of money will ever make you feel rich. And this is what psychologists call the arrival fallacy. It's the lie that we tell ourselves, I'll feel successful when I hit 10K a month, or I'll feel happy when I buy my dream house looking out on the lake. But what actually happens when we get there, when we get the house, the goalpost moves and we want a bigger house, right? The bar resets. And so I'm not saying you can't aim high. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to blow your own mind with what's possible for you. I'm not saying to dream bigger. I'm a businesswoman myself running a multi-million-dollar business, and I believe in wealth, growth, and expansion. Please hear me now. I need you to start knowing what's enough and what that looks like for you. Chances are you may already be closer than you think to your enough. And then the bigger question becomes, why are we all doing this? Why keep pursuing and growing and trying to become more if we already have enough? And that is the whole purpose of entrepreneurship, becoming more of who you are. Number 3, it's not a spending problem. See, this third one might sound controversial, but I need you to hear this, and I really want you to think about it. Most of us think we're bad with money, and we beat ourselves up for spending too much on coffees, dinners out, new clothes, things to make us feel more happy, just make life a little more enjoyable. And so we try and fix that. We try to cut back. We cancel our subscriptions, we budget harder, but no matter how much we save, it still feels like we're falling behind and doing something wrong. Now, I see this all the time with my clients. They come to me with all this guilt, afraid of buying anything, trying to penny pinch their way to financial freedom, but here's the reality. There's nothing wrong with saving and investing money, but you can't budget your way to being rich. In fact, back in 1999, David Bach, who's a so-called personal finance expert, wrote about it in his book, latteing away your financial future. In his book, Smart Women Finish Rich. So what he talked about was this claim that if you don't spend $5 a day buying Starbucks coffee and you invest it instead, then you will end up a millionaire by the time you retire. 𝐕𝐤𝐝 even built an entire online calculator called the Latte Factor Calculator to show how much you could save by giving up small luxuries like lattes, lunches out, and Ubers. And so what's the sad reality of this? The sad reality is that most people are actually really comfortable penny pinching and budgeting and going without certain things and working harder. It almost always feels virtuous to kind of suffer in this way. But what a lot of people don't realize is that 𝐕𝐤𝐝's math has been completely debunked. Why? Because he rounded up the numbers to make the savings seem larger. He overestimated investment returns. He ignored taxes. He forgot about all the stuff that just happens in life, like losing your job, going through a breakup, having a medical emergency. And so it's complete nonsense. If you're trying to live a 10K life on a 3K income, of course you're gonna feel anxious. Okay? But that's not a spending issue. That is a mismatch between your vision and your current financial reality. And when your income doesn't match the life that you want, your vision, it's easy to fall into this guilt, shame, and a scarcity mindset. And you start thinking, oh, I can't have that. I shouldn't spend on this. I'll never get ahead. But the truth is, you can't feel rich while constantly policing your spending. So to shift into a wealthy mindset, you need to stop first with the blame and the guilt for your spending and start expanding your capacity to receive more money. You have a money receiving problem, because when you feel like you are allowed to have what you want, that's when the internal shift begins, and that's when you start to feel rich before the money shows up. Number 4, from consumer to creator. One of the biggest mindset shifts that helped me feel rich long before I was actually wealthy was this. I stopped seeing the world through the lens of a consumer, and I started seeing it like a creator. Here's what I mean, and we're continuing on with this Starbucks theme here that we had before. So most people walk into a Starbucks and think, where can I get my coffee? Where do I get my coffee? But someone with a creator mindset, an entrepreneur, walks in and thinks, this is a business model. This is a brand. This is a system I could study. What can I learn from this? What can I maybe even replicate with my own ideas? What could I invest in? Same place, same smell of the espresso, yet they have totally different internal experiences and thoughts about the place they're in. And see, when you see yourself as a consumer, your role in the world is to just continually buy more things, to make money so that you can spend it on things, to make money so you can pay for things. But when you see yourself as a creator, your role shifts. You start asking bigger questions. You start looking at problems and seeing potential businesses. You stop thinking, how can I get more? Where can I spend my money today? And you start asking, how can I build more? You may have heard of the story of the elephant and the rope. As a baby, the elephant is tied to a rope and it can't break. And it pulls and it pulls, and eventually it gives up. And when it grows up, strong, huge elephant easily could break the rope. What happens? It doesn't even try. Why? Because it still believes it's stuck. It's still living in its limits. It's learned to live in when it was small. And a lot of us are like that. We've been trained to see ourselves as consumers, to follow the rules, to keep spending, to work really hard so that we can buy a lot of things, and believe that buying is the only power that we have. But it's not. Anyone has the power to create something, to start small, to solve a problem, to build something valuable and share it with the world. And when you shift into a creator mindset, it's like the elephant finally realizing, I was never actually trapped, I was just trained to be this way. And so the next time you see something that you'd normally consume, scroll past a product, an advertisement, a business, pause and ask yourself, what would the owner of this, the person on the other side, be thinking about right now? And this single question starts training your brain. It rewires your brain to start moving away from passively being a consumer and spending money on things into possibility, the possibility to create anything. And if you want to join a private community of growth-minded individuals, all hyper-focused on building a path to real, lasting success in both their personal and their professional lives, then I'd love for you to click on the link below and find out more about the Personal Power Collective. Every month we focus on new personal development themes like self-worth, setting boundaries, building abundance, and we do a masterclass on that every month to do the work together. And we coach on it together all month long. I give you things like reflective tools to help you take the work deeper. And of course, you can do it all alongside others who share the same big ambitions as you. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave the link to that down below. Number 5, spend for future you. Now this might sound strange, but I actually started feeling wealthy when I stopped being cheap with myself. There was a time when I'd buy the cheapest version of everything because I thought it was a smart thing to do. And in reality, I was just reinforcing the belief that I'm not worth more. But rich people don't spend differently, they relate to spending differently. They understand the difference between an expense and an investment. See, an expense takes money out of your pocket, and an investment puts money back in your pocket over time. I remember one time spending over $10,000 on a mastermind I was terrified to join, but that decision led to hundreds of thousands of dollars of new income. Why? Because I wasn't just buying access, I was showing up differently. I saw myself as someone worth investing in. And then after that, spending money started to feel empowering because the stuff that I was investing in, the things I was actually spending my money on, were all aligned with my very own growth. And so here's the shift I want you to think about. Buy for who you're becoming, not just for today's comfort. And you can think of it like this. Every purchase you make is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. When you invest in a course, you're saying, I'm the kind of person who learns and grows. When you hire a coach, you're saying, I'm the kind of person who takes themselves seriously. When you pay for systems that save you time, you're saying, my time is worth more than my money. See, this is how wealthy people think. They don't just spend to consume, they don't just throw their money away on products, they spend to expand their life and get better. They aren't afraid to put money behind their ambitions because they know the ROI doesn't just come back in dollars. It comes back in confidence, it comes back in momentum, it comes back in self-belief, and so many other amazing things. And so if you want to feel rich before you are rich, here's what I'd recommend. Start small. Just spend a little extra on something that supports your growth. Buy the better version, choose the higher quality, join a room that makes you a little nervous, a little bit outside your comfort zone. Because the fastest way to change your external world is to upgrade your internal identity. And spending for your future self is one of the most powerful identity upgrades that you can make. But if you want more practical habits that I use to build real wealth, so things like priority power hours and the 1% rule, then you'll find a grand total of 18 of them over on this video over here. I'll leave it up on the screen for you to check out and watch next. Thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye-bye.